Have you ever read through Genesis and thought to yourself, wait a minute, where did Cain get his wife? Well, this video is for you. Well, welcome back to another Bible Q&A with Pastor Josh, and just wanted to let you know this question came up in our discipleship group, and rightly so. Our group is studying the image of God and how that relates to man and husband and wife and woman and children and all that sort of thing. But anyway, enough about that. So, where did Cain get his wife? Right? I mean, this is what is known as an apologetic question. Apologetics means defending something, right? That's all it means. That was, of course, a paraphrase. I'm sure the definition's more deeper than that. But it's basically a defense for the Christian faith against anyone who would lift up some sort of lofty argument against it, right? Now, if you're asking yourself, why should we as Christians do this? Well, look no further than 1 Peter 3:15, which says, "But sanctify Christ as Lord in your hearts, always being ready to make a defense to everyone who asks you to give an account for the hope that is in you. Yet do this with gentleness and reverence." And so basically the Greek word that Peter uses for defense is apologia or apologia, depending on how you pronounce it, which is why when we make a defense, we call it apologetics, right? We're making an apologia, a defense of the Christian faith. And so, of course, we want to do this with humility. The end goal in apologetics is to answer the skeptic, but always to be able to share the gospel, because we want that person to have a real relationship with Jesus Christ. Well, anyway, back to Cain and his wife. And so in Genesis 5, we read the summary of Adam's life in verse 4. Basically, it says, "These are then the days of Adam after he became the father of Seth, were 800 years, and he had other sons and daughters." Basically, I think he lived, I think the scripture goes on to say it was total 950 years, something like that. And I know now you're probably thinking, well, how did people live that long? It's a question for another video. But wouldn't that mean, if these were the only two people, Adam and Eve, and they had other sons and daughters, wouldn't that mean Cain's wife would have been his very close relative? Yeah. Is that a problem? No. What? It's not a problem. See, first you have to understand God created everything perfect. Perfect. And I know we can't fathom that thought because, I mean, take a look at the world around you, right? Everything's falling apart. Everything's breaking. Anytime you buy something, right, the new wears off in like, used to be 6 months to a year, now it wears off in like 30 days, maybe a week, right? Everything's breaking and falling down. But in the beginning, God created everything perfect. There was no breakdown. There was no problem with anything. And even the gene, the microscopic gene in Adam and Eve and Cain and all their sons and daughters, Seth, Abel, all of them would have been perfect. There would have been no breakdown yet, right? And so they were close enough to creation to not have experienced any of that breakdown that we see today. And we do see it all the time. Their genes were perfect, okay? So I know that's difficult to understand, but that's something we have to start with because that's what God said. He created everything good and perfect, all right? So it is true, though, after God pronounced the curse on account of Adam's sin, that creation, even down to the microscopic genes in our bodies, would have started to break down and deteriorate. Right? I mean, you got to think about this. Even Abraham, right, was married to his half-sister Sarah. It's just the way it was. There was, until they started propagating up across the earth. And get this, it wasn't until Leviticus 18 through 20 that God gave a law forbidding marriage of close relations. And why did he do that? Well, first of all, this would have been some 2,500 plus years after Cain and his wife, okay? And there's a couple reasons he did it. At that time, there would have been enough breakdown on a result of the curse and the fall in the creation as well as the genomes and all that stuff to start experiencing deformities and problems within the gene pool when people married and had children. The other thing is 2,500 years, there would have been plenty of people on the earth. There no longer needed to be any close relation because there was tons of people, different languages, all that stuff, okay? And so that was why he gave that. So what happens? Well, coincidentally, Cain was more than likely married. In fact, he was probably married before he even killed his brother Abel, right? You say, well, how do you know that, Pastor Josh? Well, if you read the text, it says that after he killed Abel, God pronounced him a fugitive and a wanderer across all the earth, right, all the days of his life. It says that Cain went to the land of Nod, and he knew his wife. The Bible uses the word know to indicate sexual activity between two people. It was not as if Cain, he went to the land of Nod and found a wife, or he met his wife and then got to know her conversatively, right? Like, hey, honey, what's your favorite color? Is it UNC or NC State, honey? Or, oh, it's a beautiful tunic you have. I love those sandals. No, it wasn't like that. He knew her, meaning when he was pronounced a fugitive and a wanderer to wander the earth on a result of his murder of his brother, he would have taken his wife with him, which he was already married, and gone to the land of Nod, and then he would have knew her. He would have come together. They would have came together in that marital union that God instituted from the beginning, right? When he said, be fruitful and multiply. Okay, so there wasn't other people or races on the earth. There's only one race, the human race. Race wasn't even a term developed until around Charles Darwin's time, when he used it to refer to different levels of humans based on variations in skin and everything else. Okay, so there's the human race. All of them are descendants, all of us are descendants from all the way back to Adam and Eve. Okay, Cain would have taken a close relative as a wife. He would have been married before he wandered the land, and he would have went to the land of Nod, knew his wife, right? Instituting that marital union by being fruitful and multiplying. And so that's where Cain got his wife. That, again, apologetic question. Now you should be able to give a defense if that ever comes up. And I'm sure it will, because there's nothing new under the sun. These questions have been asked for millennia, probably longer than that. I hope this was helpful, and if you have any other questions, you can check out the link in the description, which points to our website where you can submit one, or if you click here, you'll get the playlist of the previous Bible Q&A videos, and then if you click here, you can subscribe to our channel. Until next time, see you again.